Okay, listen, we are back because Will, can we see you for a moment? We need to see you, sir. We need you. I don't care what you're doing. We need to speak with you, sir. It's rather important because what the hell is going on? Okay, listen, it's really not funny. It's really not. And so the thing is, there's a lot of things going around. Everybody has seen the clip. Everybody has heard about it, talked about it, laughed about it, and that sort of thing like that. But you can go somewhere else for a lot of the, slowing down of the, replaying of it. I'll play some of it because it's important to the story. But like, I'm not, I'm getting to more of the why. I think I've seen a lot of stuff on it looked like he was laughing and and then he looked over at Jada and I don't know what happened, but then he just went up there. Yeah. I think we can all agree that what happened was absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable on Will Smith's part. Just that there was no adequate provocation for just a physical assault and battery situation. There was nothing that your wife was not in any sort of harm's way. There was nothing there that I feel like warranted you to take a 10-second walk from your seat all across to up through the stage in the middle of a broadcast around the world for a day that was very much specifically to congratulate very hardworking individuals in their respective genres and roles or what have you in the art of film, and take that moment to really have somewhat of a meltdown. Ain't no way that any part of you thought that was okay. That is just, it's just not. It's just not. It's embarrassing. But I do want to make sure that in the midst of us telling all these jokes, because, mental health is a real thing. And instead of just only discussing the embarrassment of it all, because that's embarrassing to the African American community, just keeping it funky. That's an embarrassment. It's very cringe. It's concerning, but also there has to be some concern in addition to concern for Chris Rock, because that can never be forgotten. He was a victim in this, but also concern for Will Smith in terms of mental health, because I think we can all agree. Or most of us can agree. Some people you just never gonna listen. I seen some of y'all in the comments. It ain't even worth no time trying to listen. Anyway, but I think most people can agree that a person of Will Smith's stature, of his ilk, of the time that he's put in and the things that he's done so far, a person of his stature 9.5 out of 10 times is not taking that route, is not doing that, is not choosing violence in that way. And so I think it's worth noting that there's probably some sort of weight sitting on him that a lot of other folks kind of picked up on, which is kind of why you see some of the consoling and that sort of thing. I think there's some people who we got to realize Black Hollywood especially is small. It's very small, and these people kind of know each other. Some people may not be the best of friends, but I am well aware there's probably backstory to so many things that we would just never know about. I'm sure of it. But let's just do this, because what I want to do is kind of go into a little bit of some things that Will Smith has already shared to us, or shared with us, excuse me, and other releases that he's done that kind of help give us some insight into why. I seen everybody cackling about, "Ooh, this what happened on looking, and I woulda, and if it was me, I can't." we all do it to a certain degree, but just watching any and everybody and their mother talking about if it had have been or woulda shoulda been me, I know I would. Yeah, okay. Anyway, let's talk about, other than the actual incident, what led to it? What probably is the reasoning that we can kind of delve into for why somebody of such a high, who can command such a high pay and such high value when it comes to this film space, why they would choose to do something like this. Okay, so anyway, that's enough for the intro. Let's get into it. There's some crazy stuff I want to talk about. Here we go. So before we get into kind of going, deep into the current situation of what we looked at on the Oscars, I do want to kind of harken back a little bit to the backstory when it comes to why, and I won't spend long here, but why, people are not as sympathetic or empathetic to Will Smith in this particular moment and situation. A lot of people feel like, hey man, you've exposed so much of your life. You told us all your business, stuff that we would have never known. You shared things with us, like the whole infamous entanglement situation and all of that, right? With your wife and sitting there and, looking like, a sad puppy situation, trying to convince everybody that, oh no, it's okay. And we're good. And I'm fine. And we're all great. And all of this carrying on, right? And you sharing all this information out to the public. That's really some really deep, personal, family related situations that are very painful. You can tell. And really, I think really, I don't know how to describe. It's something other than painful too. There's a deep hurt. I feel like that is existing in that space, and that's what I'm looking for. A feeling and sense of emptiness in a way, right? Because Jada's trying to find herself. She's looking for something she has never found. And some part of her, I feel like, based upon this whole harkening back to her relationship with Tupac and how she, aggrandizes this relationship in such a way, I feel like she almost feels like part of her is just unfulfilled and in the grave. Because, Tupac is gone and Will cannot compete. Nobody can compete with, someone's, I don't want to say ghost, but can't compete with the memory of someone. You just cannot. And after how many kids they have together? After 3 kids or so in a lifetime together, if that ain't enough, baby, it just won't be. You can't fulfill someone else on behalf of that other person. They have to find what fulfills them and find a way to be fulfilled in any event. So this kind of goes back to people being like, you all are the ones releasing a lot of this information about, Jada and her entanglement with August Alsina and her, deep, passionate feelings for Tupac and all that sort of thing. And you guys are putting all that out. And then now you want to get upset, especially in a comedic sphere, where when people are making light of things that you all have chosen to share with us that wasn't any of our business. Well, I think there's a little bit of insight into why Will and perhaps Jada kind of took that route. And, and it seems counterintuitive, but I just want to play this clip from this series that Will did when he was trying to make sure he was losing weight and he was in the process of writing his memoir, his book, and that sort of thing. He really kind of stepped into it to try to give us insight into him as a person. So I just kind of want to play this one clip discussing why he decided to even film the process of his, him losing weight and him being so embarrassed by what physically he had become and probably in a lot of ways mentally had become. And so let's just watch this and we'll come back.
Why'd you decide to film all this? Kind of expose yourself like this?
That's a very good question. I guess the cameras, for me, act like what do you call it in Alcoholics Anonymous when you have the partner? Like, what is that?
A sponsor.
A sponsor, yeah. So I was like, for me, I'm a performer. So the cameras act like my sponsor. They keep me accountable. When I know the world is gonna see it. It's like the greatest peer pressure there is. I'm not gonna fail if it's on camera.
Bringing the cameras in is a double-edged sword. I do sometimes wonder if for Will, they allow him to perform, to be funny, and that deflects from his embarrassment.
What you've come to understand as Will Smith, the alien annihilating MC, bigger than life movie star, is largely a construction. A carefully crafted and honed character designed to protect myself, to hide myself from the world, to hide the coward.
Okay, so I want to pause it right there. So there was so much in that. There were so many different things that were said about the reason that he chose to film, his weight loss journey, right? But there's a few things that I pulled out from that. So the one hand, he says, okay, it's an accountability coach, kind of like when you go to the gym and stuff. If you know somebody's waiting on you, you're more likely to go than if you could just say, okay, one more time, I'll sleep in this, today, and I'll get there tomorrow, what have you, right? So there's an accountability element to that, I agree that, in a lot of ways, once you put something out there, it does kind of, if you're a motivated person, add a little bit something to that, right? To get you out there and to do more about it. But the piece that's specifically relevant to me that he shared kind of towards the end, and that his clinical professional shared, was that this is this is not just, you trying to hold yourself accountable. This is a calculated coping mechanism as well, and something that gives Will more of a sense of control of things he does not feel like he can control, because of the fact that deep down he sees himself as a coward. He feels like how he sees himself, and there's some information that I'll share later in this video that kind of goes into how that started, but he sees himself through and through as a coward. Like, he thinks that that's the true him, in my opinion, from what I'm looking at and the things that I've seen. He sees himself truly at his most bare state as a coward. And what gives him control is being in control of his public image and persona, which is to film, right? To do, you're not filming with anybody else. You're doing red table talk where you all control all the footage and all that kind of stuff. I mean, which that part is smart, if you have that platform, and to build a platform, but it's a control mechanism. And even though to us, I think in a lot of ways that red table talk about the entanglement and all of that, I think in a lot of ways to us, it was so cringe and so thoroughly embarrassing to, there was a lot of even like secondhand embarrassment that you would get just from watching something like that, about, Will kind of having to endure his wife fulfilling her desires, sexually and otherwise, emotionally, and all of that, spiritually, whatever, with somebody else who happened to be the friend of her son or something like that, so that's very embarrassing for a male's ego in this world, whether or not you feel like that's justified or not. It's very embarrassing for a man that's supposed to be seen as a power player in every other respect, right? And I think Will thought that he was jumping in front of something, and it just kind of kept growing and snowballing to be him being the laughing stock of, the in the public sphere, right? Which is, of course, not the objective that he would have had. So I think that at the time, Will thought that he was being able to control the narrative and do something positive with it, or spin it in such a way that never materialized. So I think that's why they shared a lot of information, even though people outwardly, externally, people think it was really weird. So that's that piece. But now I want to talk about, how many Will Smiths are there? There are more than one. I told you, like, at his core, I feel like he sees himself as just this cowardly figure that does everything and chooses everything out of fear. And so what he has done is kind of constructed alter egos that protect this core coward in the middle. And I'm not calling him a coward. I'm referencing what I believe his view of himself to be. But he's constructed these ego protectors, and these safety mechanisms for himself when he feels that he's in fear, which it sounds like it's all the time. So let's just watch this quick clip from that same series for his weight loss journey in regard to the different personas that he has constructed.
Chapter 20, Surrender. I began to refer to my nice guy persona as Uncle Fluffy. He was the pleaser in me, the part of me that had to smile no matter how I was feeling. He wasn't allowed to be in a bad mood or have a bad day. He signed every autograph, shook every hand, kissed every baby. But Fluffy was further complicated by his shadow counterpart, the General. When I didn't get the approval I sought, my anguish would express itself as the General. The General's job was to get the flag to the top of the hill by any means necessary and to punish those who dared to dissent. Even myself.
So there you go. You have the Uncle Fluffy or what have you, and the General. These are two personas that he developed to protect this core coward, right? So as far as I can tell, I see three different manifestations of Will Smith. There's the coward, who he believes is this core persona or personality or core being that has been affected by life circumstance. Then you have the Mr. or Uncle Fluffy or whatever, that is the person who is what he feels everybody should see, wants to see, and that makes him safe. The individual that everybody associates with joy, happiness, being pleased with him, that keeps him in a constant state of feeling like he's okay in his surroundings and his goings on. Like everybody's happy, we're all good, no danger, no fear, no trauma here, right? But it's all a persona, right? It's just, a lot of celebrities have to have some of that because you're running into people every moment of the day. Everybody thinks that as soon as you come across their path, that's their time with you. Like, it's kind of hard to be a person sometimes. And I think, and again, like if you'll see in just a brief forward into the Oscar situation, you'll see like a Tyler Perry and Denzel Washington that kind of came to comfort Will Smith, because these are people who really know what this thing is. A lot of us sitting at home get to watch people or turn them off, turn them on the television and the computer and the phone, and write any kind of scandalous thing you can think of in a comment or in a review or video or whatever, and then you're done. And that's that person's life, right? And then it's like you make a certain amount of money, so you should be great with it, when just human beings were not set that way, right? Very few human beings are set that way, right? Which is why a lot of celebrities are batshit crazy when you really get into it, because it's just something unnatural about the whole thing sometimes, right? But anyway, he's constructed these folks, and the General is the one that we got to get it done. Like he said, his father was military, and it was a really go get it mindset. Either you go get it done. He said it's one of two things: is if I send you to go do something, either you accomplish the mission or you're dead. Like that was the mentality growing up in his house, right? And so it's like the Punisher, right? The General is like when that part coming from his father switches on, there's mayhem to a certain extent, and that comes out in different ways. It comes out in some of his manic episodes of needing to climb the tallest building in Dubai, or needing to try to beat certain times on a marathon, and if he can't do it, it's hell to pay for everybody around you, or kind of really just pushing yourself to achieve goals that seem to be almost impossible, especially when they are coupled with one another. All these different things that really you know, that's the manic side of things, or then like that enforcer, you know, to you know, get people on board or do what you want them to do, you know, when you feel like, okay, the nicey fluffy is not working. So now I'm about to dig in. You're gonna see what it is. You're gonna see this demon, you know, that's up under here, right? And before I go too much further, I'm gonna bring up something I don't think anybody's brought up yet. This really goes into the name that comes to mind. Sorry guys, the name that comes to mind is Janet Hubert, right? And I love the fact that they have come to terms with their relationship and the way that it unfolded negatively when Will was younger. But if you recall, if you harken back, this really, if you go into a little bit of what Janet Hubert talked about in terms of them hashing it out and having their conversation, and kudos to Will for doing that because he did not have to. And I'm so glad that he took it upon himself to meet with that sister and to try to make that right. And to try, I mean, I think at some point he could not reconcile not trying to make that right. So I do believe that Will has been on this path to try to really make sense of some unresolved things in his life. So I give him that. But Janet Hubert always kind of talked about this whole thing of, you know, kind of the things that Will would do and kind of the treatment when she felt like, you know, there was some sort of miscommunication. Janet would say stuff like, you know, I never was unprofessional. I didn't mistreat anybody. You know, I was given this label as hard to work with, and that wasn't the case. And, you know, I became bitter and I had all these family issues because, you know, I was pregnant and, you know, I was railroaded. And Will never came to my defense. Will never spoke up for me. And in a lot of ways, I feel like Will helped, you know, do this to me. And Will, if you remember, go back and I don't even know, maybe I'll drop, you know, a short clip in here or something when I get a moment. But Will spoke to the fact of, I thought you didn't like me.
I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. I know.
Everything was a threat to me.
Why was I a threat?
Not you, the world. I was so driven by fear and jokes and comedy and all of that.
Yeah, you were.
When I look back now, it's, you know, it's obvious that you were having a hard time, and I felt like you hated me.
And so that's that Mr. Fluffy or Uncle Fluffy and the general situation, right? When the nicey fluffy stuff in Will's mind did not work with Janet, you got the general, you see. And so that's it's Will giving us this insight into the mechanisms that he's built to survive, because he always says, like, you know, we were taught in my household to be on survival mode even when we are doing just fine. And so I really just wanted to give Janet her flowers on that particular point. I'm so glad that they cleared that up. But that comes to my mind when watching this Oscar situation, right? But let's get into why. What I want to get into is why Will has the feeling at his core of being a perpetual coward. And it's something that he cannot shake himself out of. He feels this to be who he is. And it's inextricably linked to him as a being. And it feels like it's the coward who has, you know, it's the person behind the wall who's created the facade of the, you know, the Wizard of Oz and the curtains and all of this, right? The coward is the one that's doing all of this movement and creation of personas and things, right? The coward that's perpetually scared of everything, not being liked, and because you're not liked, being in danger. But here, I want to share with everyone why Will equates lack of safety with lack of the fluffy persona, or like why he feels like a failure if the funny doesn't work to create safety, and where there's the absence of Mr. Fluffy, there's danger. So I'm gonna play this clip really quick.
If Harry was fight, Ellen was flight, and I became a pleaser, that my little 9-year-old brain processed Daddy-O's abusive episodes as somehow being my fault. I should have been able to keep my father satisfied. I should have been able to protect my mother. I should have been able to make the family stable and happy. I should have been able to make everything all right. But that night in the bedroom, watching my father's fists collide with the woman I loved most in the world, watching as she collapsed on the ground, helpless, I just stood there. I was my mom's oldest son. I was less than 10 yards away, and I was the only chance she had for help. Yet I did nothing. It was then that my young identity congealed in my mind, an unshakable feeling that no matter what I have done, no matter how successful I've become, no matter how much money I've made or how many #1 hits I've had, how many box office records I've broken, there's that subtle and silent feeling always pulsating in the back of my mind that I'm a coward, that I failed, that I'm sorry, my mom, so sorry.
So yeah, so just playing that. So based upon the household that he grew up in, it was that at times his father, for whatever traumas that he was going through at the time, I'm sure, his father at times became abusive in the household. And to the point where he physically saw his mother being abused by his father. Will's idea at the time was that to alleviate problems within the home, he was to create his own fanciful world to kind of help him escape some of the trauma that he was in. But also, if he threw aspects of his being, you know, could be the funny man, the Mr. Fluffy or Uncle Fluffy or whatever, and could make everybody laugh and make everybody happy, then that equals safety, right? If I can keep my dad laughing, if I can keep him happy, if I can keep the, you know, people's spirits high, then we shouldn't have this type of unsafety, this type of trauma, right? And so him not being able to successfully do that as a child, in his mind created this feeling that he was and also in the fact that once that didn't work, he kind of froze as a child when the abuse was taking place, and he didn't feel mobilized and empowered to do anything. Then he equated that with being a coward, and that became how he saw himself. And once somebody sees himself a certain way, it ain't nothing you can do. You can talk to him, and what you do is you do plant seeds. You try to plant seeds in those people or anyone, you know, of things that are, you know, positive things that you see that they cannot see. But it's up to that person in terms of what they do with that information. You cannot overcome somebody else's view of themselves. And so that is where that came from. Now, why is this important for this particular situation? Why is this important? It's important because it tells me a lot about why he smacked the hell out of Chris Rock. Because, in my opinion, and I guess I'll play. You know what? Before I explain it, let me just kind of play a portion of the actual Oscars, what took place, and then I'll kind of get into it. So let's kind of start the clip right here.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
Okay, taking a quick pause. Now you see here that when Chris Rock made the G.I. Jane joke and the camera's panned to Will Smith, he's in full Mr. Fluffy mode, okay? Jada is not. Okay? I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep certain aspects of this light, guys, but, you know, it's really a embarrassing, sad situation, honestly. But I'm trying to keep certain aspects of this light. He's in full Mr. Fluffy mode. They are sitting in the front of the Oscars. You know, he has the opportunity to win one. He is in full persona mode. This is what I want you all to see. I'm in the front. I'm glorious smiles. You know, we're dressed to the nines. Jada is looking gorgeous. This what gown she money. I mean, but not gaudy. Like it's just gorgeous. They look great. And everything is right with the world and persona. But look at them eyes closed on Jada. Let me play a little bit more. So Jada rolling them eyes. And then Chris, that was a nice one. Let's just move on. Because see, Chris has realized, okay, I've offended somebody. And so he made the statement. That was a nice one. That was a nice. He was trying to say I wasn't basically, I wasn't trying to come at you. That was a little soft thing just to say your name. We got Will in the front here. I included these other two nominees. I'm speaking about Will, and his wife is sitting right here. I'm including you in the moment, right? Even though Chris has said some things like in 2016, at the 2016 Oscars, talking about how nobody cares about Jada wanting to boycott because ain't nobody wanted to see Jada show up anyway. She was doing TV. It's kind of like you weren't invited to the party. Like you're not part of the cool club. You weren't invited. So I could see how that would be a problem for me. It's on the Oscar stage. It was a little. I think some people say it wasn't that bad. I think it's kind of when somebody's taking a political stance to stand up for Black people, and you take the opportunity on the platform that somebody's trying to stand up for, and say like they don't belong. It's kind of, there's some layers there. So I'm not going to get into too much of that. But anyway, there's some history apparently there. So. Jada rolling them eyes about, her having the alopecia thing. I did not know, and this is just me, because y'all see my hair is gone, low if not gone. But I did not know that alopecia was such a sensitive subject. But now I can see how it is sensitive for women, because so much of the femininity that's associated with women, like in the public and that sort of, especially being in the acting, very, very aesthetically strict world, overly scrutinized world of, celebrity and movies and TV. I could see how that would be very damaging to a person's self-esteem, or a female self-esteem, to be losing her hair. However, I don't think it's the same. I don't think that, I don't know if Chris even knew about that condition with Jada. I didn't. I know a lot of other people didn't. I know somebody said that she posted something like 4 days before this talking about the hair loss. I think it's kind of presumptuous, unless there's some backstory I don't know, that Chris knew anything about this. However, it's not like, I don't want to make light of it, but he didn't make a joke about her having cancer or something life-threatening. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to make light of it, but I don't want to make it overly critical or overly damning in terms of what it is that he said or did. But anyway, so the reason why the Mr. Fluffy or the reason why the coward component came in my opinion, is because at this time, beforehand, when he was in perma smile mode, laughing and things like that, looking around, he was still in Mr. Fluffy land. When he saw Jada's face, that snapped him out of Mr. Fluffy and immediately thrust him into the general. That's my thought. I'm not Will. I can't speak for him. My thought is that he immediately, whether it was on purpose or not, shifted into part of that fanciful creation of the general. And he was going to regulate. I think another component to this that undergirds that is part of Will's speech when he talked about, I'm not going to play all of that, but when he talked about how, Venus and Serena's father, he was about family and protecting family, right? And I think when Jada showed their face, I think Will immediately saw his wife as similar to his mother, that she felt unprotected and he wasn't doing anything about it. But different than him being a child at the time, he was a grown man and he was about to be the general and regulate. So he got his happy ass up. I'll play this part just for the sake of, the video and keeping the record of, exactly what happened. Let's just play here when Will is walking up.
I'm out here. Richard.
Here he comes. Wow, and you heard it too, Lord.
Wow.
And walked off like nothing.
Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
And he had something to say.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
That's the general talking.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane jump.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Now that's the real general.
Okay?
Right.
Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
And so that was the general. That's what happened, in my opinion. That's what I think when people are, I don't know what, he was laughing and then he all of a sudden flipped out and he looked at Jada. We don't know what happened, why he do. I feel like this is the best explanation I could come up with, and one that I haven't seen yet, that really helps describe most likely what happened. And then I think when Will, when he was on his way walking back, I think it was starting to kind of set in what he did, what he had done. He's like, oh, this is not a fantasy. This is not a movie either. Like, I really just went up and slapped somebody. But the general was, well, maybe not even when he was walking back, because when he sat down, the general was still full throttle and actually getting more ramped up. But at some point, that kind of calmed down a bit, and he flipped back into Mr. Fluffy mode. Did y'all see that? I mean, after the cameras went off, and you can go watch like the little background footage of, in between commercial breaks, and like I said, Tyler Perry and Denzel Washington going up to talk to him and bring him back down, get him together, help him collect himself. A lot of people, because I really do feel like most people in that room know that 9.5 out of 10 times a man of that stature would not choose to do something like that on that type of stage if they're holding all of their faculties at the moment. I think even Whoopi Goldberg mentioned on The View at some point, she said something about how you'll notice everybody like going up to him, hugging him and everything, because we were trying to figure out, is he having a break? Is he okay? Like, is something mentally wrong? Because you almost, when people give everything they've got to get to a certain level and do certain things, it's certain things you do not expect to see. And I think true to form is what Whoopi was saying, was that people were concerned that he was having a moment that somebody needed to pay critical attention to, not like on a surface level, like that's why I don't think, if you notice, people didn't treat him like a criminal. People was treating him like somebody who needed help. So people say he should have been drug off by the police and arrested and that. I hear everything you're saying. Everybody in the room, who some of the people actually know him, been around him, whatever like that, which is not relevant to Chris Rock. If somebody commit a crime against you, do what you got to do. But just saying, like the manner in which people were treating him, they were treating him like somebody who may have been in immediate need of assistance. And once people felt comfortable that he was okay, they kind of were like, oh, okay, all right. All right, we'll say a prayer with you real quick. Just, are you okay? Can you hold it together? Do we need to get you out of here? That part of it to me is beautiful. Seeing people who understand that public struggle, that public figures have, and how critical it is to help stop someone who has worked their whole life to get to a certain level from ruining it. You can't stop someone altogether, but just take a pause, just take a moment. Yo, what's good? Everything all right? Like, I love that. That's my mic, y'all. Sorry. I love that aspect of what happened. But anyway, y'all, that's what I got from it. And the other thing I can tell you is that, and I have to, do this a little more research. I think I saw videos of Will Smith, after that, after the Oscars, like going to the Oscars parties and dancing and stuff like that. He went straight back to Mr. Fluffy. Because to me, if you committing assault and battery out here, on a international stage and in front of all your peers in the industry, you need to go to your home and rest. He went to full Mr. Fluffy out partying, dancing to your own songs, jiggy with it and what have you. That part bothered me. Just because somebody didn't choose to press charges and all that kind of stuff doesn't mean we need to continue on as if we don't know what the hell. Just you need to be at your house. You need to go to your whatever many acres. Do whatever you need to do to figure out. You should have called your whole care team. All them people that was there on your weight loss journey thing with, you should have called your whole care team. Everybody get to my house now. Or get off my payroll. Get to my house now or you fired. I need to know what the hell just happened. Why am I not in control of my own faculties? What just happened? So there's that aspect of things, right? I don't want to make it like he doesn't have control of himself and that he, is somehow to the point of, clinically insane where he can't control. He knew what he was doing in the moment, but I don't think he properly perspective-wise weighed everything in that moment. People say, oh, he knew, he walked right up there. He knew nothing was going to happen. I think to a certain extent, yes. I think he knew, walking up there, smacking somebody and then turning your back on them as if like nothing's going to happen type of thing. I think he did know he was in a very controlled environment. I think he knows Chris Rock. So like a lot of people say, you know who to do it to, because if The Rock was up there, like they said, Jason Momoa, whoever, was up there, would the same thing have happened? I don't know. Because in that moment, it looked like it was more so the trigger of Jada and her visible discomfort and him feeling like a coward in that moment and she wasn't protected. I think, I don't know what he would have done. I don't know. And that ain't the first time that Will Smith has smacked the hell out of somebody. He didn't smack people on the red carpet, but they deserved it though. People I think somebody some dude tried to kiss him or something, like some shock jock guy who tries to get in celebrity pictures and stuff, tried to kiss him or something and he smacked him or whatever. So he been smacking people, but he ain't never just went out his way to go smack somebody. Shout out to Chris Rock for trying to handle that as a professional in the best way possible. I think that what Chris Rock did was one way to go about it. I don't think that's the only professional way to go about that. If somebody is walking up to you, threatening you with physical violence, I don't think it is necessarily wrong for you to return in kind and defend yourself. Now, I think at the point when Chris Rock realized that it was a one and done, okay, you shouldn't be going like people. I would have jumped on his back like no, First of all, can we give credit to Chris Rock? He ate that. Chris, he's like, woo, that hurt. Okay, now back to the show. What's that? I mean, and you heard that sound. It almost sounded like sound effects were added. The way he got hit, and he boom, ooh, dude, you all right? So he wasn't go. He didn't go down. Even if he did, whatever. But I'm just saying, Chris Rock, he ate that, So, and the last thing I want to talk about, because I feel like this video is getting long. Last thing I want to talk about, though, is some things that I would have expected for a person of Will Smith's stature to do in that moment who wanted to express immediate displeasure. When Chris Rock said that joke, And he looked over and saw his wife and saw how upset she was. He could have stood up like smooth and gracefully, looked over at her, reached for her hand, helped her stand up. You know, while Chris is like, you know, helped her stand up and could have politely walked stage left or stage right. Got on up out of there. Okay, yeah. Will, your award is next. Okay, well, you can mail it to me. All right. You know, if that's what he was choosing to do, or if he, you know, and then they could have went home and filmed their own acceptance speech and did it from the comfort of their red table. Okay. And spoke to the you know, brilliance of the father of the Williams sisters and all of what they went through and all of that, and how important it is to protect the humanity of Black people. And so he could have done that. He could have also, just like he walked up there to knock Chris out. Do you see? Chris was giving Will the stage. Okay. Will is on his way. Everybody know if Will has the cachet to if Will walked on that stage and said, "Chris, shut up. Somebody bring me a mic. Give me a mic. Put a mic in my hand right now." He could have been up there on that stage, took that microphone and took a moment to speak to and educate the public about what his wife was going through. Not in an embarrassing way to her, but because his wife had put out something beforehand, he could talk about it publicly. She talked about it and say, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this is what my wife is going through. You know, I don't know what Chris is doing right now. He may not know, but just let me tell you something right now. This ain't funny for us, and here's why. Women going through this affects and sweetheart, you are so brave for being here today, and you ate that, you sat here looking so graceful, and that's why I love you. But it could have been a whole movement. It could have been a whole moment. Black love, they could have been back on the top of everybody's goals, whatever. You know, because he has the power to do that, and nobody would have done anything about it. Just like his his acceptance speech. He was talking for I don't know how long. They said let him talk. And that's Will Smith. The only person I've seen they got up here, you know, who really could say something without, you know, really who really could kind of go at him. They had Jim Carrey on somebody's show. I would have sued him, and you know he would have this. Whatever, James Carrey, whatever. Like, I love you, but you know, but I mean, he was right. He in terms of that's just not acceptable. The little comment about, I guess we're not the cool kids anymore, that's dumb. Because I mean, I'm so sick of that elitist bull crap. Like, shut up. But in terms of was that appropriate or not, no. Of course it wasn't. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to the Academy, to Black America, to everyone in his field, to other people who were scheduled to receive awards that evening and who did, from what I understand, that it was one of the first times, if not the first time, that there was Black people running the production of the Oscars. So that's definitely a problem. And so Will should definitely take that into account. And he likes to do documentaries, so I really think he should do something by way of this entire experience, to take the time and go speak to people who were working on the production of it, take the time and talk to members of the Academy, regardless of what they're going to do. Because you already won the award, whether they take it back or not, hell, you won it. Everybody saw that. I mean, it may mean something to you and everyone else, but you won it. So whatever they do at this point, you won it. But you know, talk to different people, and do something that's related to your benefit of health and wellness, and loop other people into that too. Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm starting to see a whole lot of stuff happening with folks who are not coping well with stress and with adversity that happen to be of the African American community. We need some better tools, in certain instances, because it can be a lot. when other things are going on in the world and, out and about, we got to deal with that plus our own individual plight of, racism and different things that are happening in the background that, people, unless they are a shared experience, don't really understand. So you can guess by now, just to wrap it up, as to my question as to who really showed up for the Oscars, it was a trick question. All three of them showed up. It was the coward, according to Will, and the Uncle Fluffy and the General. All of them was up in there. And some of them need to be in a box, in a cage somewhere. I think Will needs to figure out how to deal with the authenticity of his personal persona of feeling like a coward and how to really remedy that. And I don't know if it's like he's I think, what is he 53, something of that nature. Like, this is really close towards the tail end of midlife crisis type of area. I'm not saying that that's the case of what's going on, but it feels like there's a lot of things that are unraveling, in terms of who he wants to be, what he wants his legacy to be. He said he felt like God was calling on him to do something, to protect, and to be a voice for other communities and that sort of thing, and that's sitting heavy on him. So that's great. But I think also with the confusion of what's happening with his marriage, and what that partnership, marriage, relationship looks like, the ridicule that he's definitely not used to on such a mass level like this, such a constant mass level like this, and where that's leaving him as to how he feels about himself. And so he's going to have to do that because, like I said before, nobody can break into or tell you how to feel about you. That's going to be from you. It's inward work within that only you can do. And I see him doing some of the work, and I really, really hope that he gets there, because it'd be a shame for things like this to continue. But anyway, that's where I want to leave it for today. I feel like that was a little bit long, but I really wanted to get that perspective out, and I think it would add a lot more context to some of the backstory of probably why a lot of this took place. But anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in for another episode of OPM and Beyond. I'm your host, E. Rains. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you get down at the bottom of that screen, press all the like, comment, subscribe, share, all that stuff down there, and I'll holler at you on the next one. All right, peace.
I can never doubt myself, I know better. All of you critics be acting like you know better. Blowing the smoke, but I know when the dust settles that I'm in my element. It's evident that there's levels to the game. All of those dark nights I got then, breaking my back to make it out, got me feeling like rain. I ain't never need your help, I know you wishing me well. A penny for your thoughts, but seeing no change. I snap for the sun like Diddy. The richest got a mad ass son, I'm like Billy. I ain't never switch up, whole team with me. Putting on for my city like OAGZ.